Now, coming up on 723, you know, a lot of people want to know what happens after we die, what happens with our loved ones after they've gone to the other side. Why am I holding this picture? Well, it's a picture of my dad and his dad, and a lot of people will turn to religion, but a lot of people will also turn to a medium. And I am so thrilled to have you, Sydney Sherman, of Madison, Connecticut, one of the foremost mediums in not only Connecticut, but the country, to talk about how we can be aware and tune into when we are being when we're getting a message perhaps from the other side. And forgive me if I get any of this terminology wrong, but
I'll correct you.
But I find this very, very fascinating. And people line up. It's always standing room only when you are speaking somewhere locally, which you do a lot. You're also the author of You Are Not Alone, Our Loved Ones Are Here, You're Just Not Listening. What does that mean, by the way?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, yeah.
This book started out actually as a child, me coming to the realization that I was different, because I never knew I was. And as the years went on, I started to see the misinformation that was given about what happens basically from TV and movies on what happens when we die. So I wrote this book because I honestly want people to know, don't wait until sometime in the future when we're getting ready to pass to try to connect with your loved ones. You are not alone, our loved ones are here. We're just not paying attention.
All right, so how might I notice, or you know, with something, you brought in some things here, talk about how these might help people to hear, or use hear kind of loosely, I guess.
Well, the first thing that's the easiest for us is a smell. And when I do my presentations, I explain, you know, most of us have had the event where a brief smell, familiar or otherwise, will come past our nose. It could be perfume. It could be in the scent of a cigarette.
My dad smoked cigars.
See?
Yeah.
So it could be a cigar smell, something familiar, and it just doesn't make sense for the area you're in. The first thing you do is need a rational approach, and you need to go look and see if possibly something in the area causing the smell. Once you've done that, then you need to ask if it's your loved one, and you need to ask them to come close to you because you would like to smell the smell again. If they come close to you, you could do it again. Ask them to do it 2 or 3 or 4 times. That's called validation. Once you get them to recreate that event over and over again, you need to stop doing what you're doing, go sit in a quiet place, and ask them to continue to try to get to you either by touch or sight or hearing or otherwise.
This is really interesting. Now, by the way, you say you were different when you grew up. Do you see or do you sense your own and maybe even other people's lost loved ones being near them?
I sense not only my own, and I have since I was a child, but I sense others as well. And everybody has people that are with them, loved ones that guide them. And yes, I can easily hear them, see them. Sometimes if I can't see them, I can always smell them. And they do have a familiar smell. And remember, it's all about familiarity, because there's no point in coming through to you if you can't recognize who they are.
That's a good point. Now, by the way, I happen to bring this in, and I don't know whether it's of any help. It's just something that my dad gave me a long time ago that I think his dad had given to him. But anyway, it's a thermometer, barometer, kind of a little decorative wall piece. Thank you. But with something like this, does having these kinds of things around, does this help us in any particular way? I know you were talking about certain things that might bring up an aroma, for example. But these types of objects, do you need them around?
You don't need to have them around, but they do help, especially if you want to try to see if they can move something that's personally theirs. You have the item from your father, here's a picture. If something that's a personal item of theirs, a brooch, a pin, a ring, you can use that to place down and ask them to move it. It's called object manipulation. And they can move items. You have to be patient. You have to understand they're not human in a sense, so they can't take the item and move it from A to B. They need time, they need time to be able to move the object.
Yeah.
You can use trigger objects, and that's what they're called, trigger objects like that.
By the way, and not to cut you off, but I noticed, so you have the phone here with you, and we've only got about a minute left, so what with a phone, what happens there sometimes?
Well, people ask me all the time if they can interfere with your phone signals, and they can. There's an article in my book that I talk about different ways they can get in touch with you, and one of the things they can do is they can dial up your phone. They can make the phone ring, they can leave a message, they can interfere with your TV, turn it on and off. So that's one of the ways they can get in touch with you. So my book talks about all the different ways that you can reach out to them with all the senses to find out what works best for you.
You have another book coming out too, don't you?
I do, and hopefully it's going to be released in June. It's called Gifted Innocence, and it's for adults on how they can recognize if they have a truly gifted child.
In the meantime, how can people see you soon? Because I know you do a lot of speaking engagements.
I have a lot of events coming up. They can go to my website, sydneysherman.net.
Perfect.
And I also have an audio CD of this coming out probably next week.
I could pick your brain for hours if I had the chance. Thank you so much.
Thank
Sydney
you so
Sherman,
much.
medium and author. You can catch her nearby, and of course,